Hi and welcome to Rocco Baby Crochet. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can make one of these hair scrunchies at home using some double knit baby yarn. I use the baby yarn just because it's lovely and soft on my hair. It doesn't, when I wrap it around my ponytail, I don't get any snagging. It doesn't damage my hair in any way. This is going to be a 36 row repeat using half treble crochet. And the way that we form these ridges is we do what is known as a back loop half treble crochet. In America, that's a back loop half double crochet. So it's quite beginner friendly. So let's show you what you're going to need to make one of these at home. So I've got my baby double knit here in this lovely purple colour. Purple's my favourite colour. I've got my 4mm crochet hook. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a darning needle, a couple of stitch markers if you're new to crochet, a hair elastic, and if you've got one of these, a row counter. This is handy to have for this to make one of these scrunchies with. So because we're doing a 36 row repeat, it saves you having to remember what row you're on all the time. So if you stop, break away, make a cup of tea, you can come back and not have had to remember what row you're on. Now if you've not got one of these, just grab a scrap piece of paper and keep a tally. So every time you go up a row, pop a tally down, and then you won't lose track. Okie dokie, so let's get going. Move these bits out of the way that we don't need for now. I'm just going to grab my yarn and we're going to make a slip knot. So to begin with, what we need is a foundation chain. So what we need to begin with is a foundation chain of 16. Now you don't want to make these foundation chains too tight because you're going to be working into the back loops, so they can be quite difficult to spot sometimes. So make it easier on yourself. Keep this chain quite loose. Don't forget to pause this video if you're a beginner. And so we're going to chain 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. So there you've got your foundation chain of 16. So you're going to grab your hair elastic, bob that over your foundation chain. Now what you want to make sure at this point is that all your stitches are facing the correct way or the same way. So I've got my V's here facing upwards, pull them together and slip stitch back into my first chain. So grab my working piece of yarn over and slip off this second chain on the hook, and that makes my slip. Okay, so what you're going to do is, because we're working treble crochets, chain 2. It's a good idea if you're new to crochet here, place your crochet hook place your stitch marker into where you've just created that slip stitch. So the stitch directly underneath your first 2 chains. So 1 chain, 2 chain, and then this next one down is your slip stitch. So it just prevents you popping extra stitches in when you come back round to the end. So we know that is secure. So this chain 2 counts as our first half treble crochet. So we're working into, this time, instead of working into all these V's, we're working into the back of the work, working into these back loops here, so they look like little bumps. So you want to pop your crochet hook underneath those, each one, just picking up, going through underneath that one loop and making a half treble crochet. So again, if you're new to crochet, a little tip for you: when you've done that first one, grab yourself a stitch marker and pop it just through the back loop, just the back loop of the top of your half treble crochet, just so you don't lose it a little bit later on. Okie dokie, and then you just continue around, pop in a half treble crochet in each of the back loops as you go. It can be a little bit tricky to get them into the back loops, but have a bit of patience with it. Okay, so there's another one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on with this and let you get on with yours. So if you want to pause the video and come back when you're in your last couple of stitches, and I'll meet you round at that side. Okay, so I've completed all my back loop half treble crochets into each of my stitches, and you can see I've come to my stitch marker which we placed in our slip stitch, so you know not to place anything in there, but it's nice to have that there just so it's obvious. So then we've got our, let me move my loose bit of yarn out of the way for you. So then we've got our 2 chains and then the top of what was our first half treble in row 1. So what we want to do is slip stitch over to the top of the second chain to join row 1 up. So pop your hook in, yarn over, pull through, and just slip that first hook, that first loop off your hook. So to start round 2, you're going to chain 2 again. Grab yourself another little stitch marker, and then we can mark off which is our slip stitch. Pop that into the base there of the chain 2. So these 2 are going to move up as you move up through your work. This one is always going to be in this position here to show us where our starting point is when we come to connect the hair tie together. So I've got my chain 2. So now if I hadn't put this stitch marker in the back loop of my first half treble, it probably would be a little bit lost in the pattern. So if you're new, it's a good idea to do it. You don't need to take it out to stitch, just pull it to the left, and you can see that that's just your back loop on there. Yarn over, pop it in that space, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, and take off all the loops on your hook. And that's your first back loop half treble crochet on round 2. So what you'll want to do now is move this stitch marker up into the back loop of your first half treble on row 2. So let's show you where that is. So you've got your stitch marker in your slip knot, in your slip stitch, your 2 chains, and then here is the top of your first half treble crochet. So you just pop in your stitch marker just through the back loop on its own. Don't pick up any other pieces of yarn. So just like that, and secure it, and then you can continue on. Just grab myself a bit more yarn with your back loop half trebles. So when you look at your stitch, you've got your V here. To make it a back loop half treble, instead of how we would traditionally go underneath both of these loops that make up the V, what we're going to do is yarn over, pop our needle in the middle of the stitch and just push through that back loop. Yarn over, pull up, yarn over, and pull through all 3. and that's what is going to create the ridge or the ribbed effect on your hair scrunchie. Okay, so I'll show you again. So you've got your V-stitch there. So we're not going underneath both like we would traditionally do. What we're going to do is, once we've yarned over, go in directly into the middle and just slide our hook underneath the back loop only. Oh, sorry. Do you know what? I'm trying to watch what I'm doing on the camera, and because I'm new to all this, it's a bit difficult. So yarn over into the middle of your V, underneath your back loop, yarn over and form your half treble crochet. So moving along to your next one, yarn over into the middle of that stitch, slide it just underneath your back loop, yarn over, pull up, yarn over and pull through all three. Okay, so you're going to do that for the rest of this round, and I will meet you back once you get to your stitch markers. Okay, so I'm back at the end of round 2. So I've done my very last back loop half treble crochet, and I've come to the stitch here where we popped the stitch marker to show us that it was our slip stitch. So just move that out of the way, and what I want to do is connect row 2 together by doing a slip stitch into the top of this chain 2. So don't forget, this was showing us where this stitch marker here up at the top was showing us where the top of our first half treble was. This was showing us where our slip was. So we count up 1, 2, and that's the top of our chain 2. So you just want to slip stitch there to connect them up. To start row 3, chain 2. Now move up your stitch marker, which is showing you which is your slip stitch if you're new to crochet. So take it out of the last one, and what you want to do is you want to count back. So we've done 2 chains, so the next one down is our slip stitch. So pop your stitch marker there, so you know you don't need, you can stop when you hit that. And then our next stitch along is nice and easy for us to see because we've got our stitch marker there. So you can either take that out, or you can just do your stitch, pull your stitch marker to the left, so you're not putting your hook through it or anything, and form your half treble. And then just before you move on, you want to just move up your stitch marker. Now I know that this seems a little bit fiddly, and if you're not new to crochet, you're not going to need to do this, but if you are new to crochet, it's really going to help you by doing this. So pop it into the back loop of the top of that half treble that you've just made, and then we just continue exactly the same as row 2, making a half treble crochet into the back loop of every stitch. So you're going to continue to do this until you've got 36 rows of back loop half treble crochets. So if you want to pause the video until you've got to that point, and then I'll show you how we join it together and just finish off the hair scrunchie for you. So I'll see you in a short while. Make sure, if you're going to be going away making a cuppa, perhaps finishing it another day, if it's late when you're watching this video, hit like, hit subscribe, and then you can just come back to it at your leisure. But I'll see you in another 32 and a half rows. Okay, so I've finished all my row repeats, and I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of my chain 2, this time going through both the loops, 2 of the 3 loops should I say, and I slip stitch. Now just before I'm going to make a knot in this yarn, what you want to do is, when you've got your bobble, hold 2 ends together there that aren't joined and pull on it, and just make sure that it does go flat, that you don't need to put more rows in it. Now if you want more ruffles in it than what I have, all you would do is scooch your work around and put more row repeats in. It's just that I like my scrunchies like this. I don't like them too thick in my hair because I've got quite fine hair, so they tend to get lost. So I'm happy with those 36 rows. So I've done my slip stitch. So to knot it off, I am going to chain 1, pull up. Now you want to pull up quite a good amount of thread here, because what we're going to do is use this thread to join the 2 ends together, and then snip that. Pull the end through and pull up, securing that knot there. Okay, so this is your tail end from where we joined there. So what you can do with that is just make sure that goes down into the middle of your scrunchie, so it won't come out. So once you've got that stuff down, so here is where I've slip stitched and joined, and what we want to do is match them up with that very first stitch marker we put in, so we know that our scrunchie isn't twisted. Okay, so get the end of your piece of yarn, you want to thread it through the darning needle, and then get your piece of work. So you can see here, so there's your top knot. What I tend to do is just go into this next stitch along, putting my darning needle underneath both those strands of yarn that create the V, moving it over to my second edge and putting it under the corresponding V's there, and pull through. And then when you pull through, you will go down a stitch, so into your next stitch along, and then you will take it through the other side, the other end, and pop it through that one as well, and pull through. Once you've got a couple on there, you can get rid of that stitch marker so it's not getting in your way, and you just keep going around the whole of your bobble, lining up the tops of your half treble crochet. So I've done that one, so I'm going to go through these 2 next, that one and that one. So my next one along, here you can see it, so it's this stitch and this stitch, and you just keep doing that until you get all the way back to the beginning. So I'll meet you back at the beginning shortly. Okay, so I've just secured the end of it there, gone all the way round, stitching the 2 ends together, take my yarn through, miss that first stitch, go through the same stitches going backwards, Can be a little bit tricky on this seam. There we go. And because this is going to be being pulled and used a lot, I'm just going to go back in and do that a third time, and then we know that those ends aren't going to come loose, and that's it. So the last thing that you've got to do, snip your end off and then just have a little play with it until it's sitting with the ruffles just how you like it. I think they're lovely. They're really nice to pop in your hair. I sell a lot of these in my Etsy shop. So over time, once you've worn this a few times, this seam will be less obvious once you've stretched it out a few times. So there you go. Cute little ribbed scrunchie for your hair. Okay, thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.